When I opened my eyes, I was leaning against the cold surface of a stone wall. I looked around. What was I doing here? My memory was completely blank. The only thing I knew was that I was in a cell surrounded by iron bars. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. This was a prison. Shadows passed in front of my cell, but I couldn't see their faces. I started to tremble and sweat with fear. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. It was as if an invisible rope had wrapped around my throat. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make a sound. Steel doors opened and closed with metallic shrieks. At that moment, I noticed something. I was not alone in my cell. When I turned around, there was someone lurking in the dim light. They wore an old, tattered prison uniform. Their face was shrouded in darkness, but I could hear their breathing. I took a few steps back. "Who are you?" I whispered. No answer. A deep silence fell over the room. The figure only lifted a finger and pointed at the door. That was when I noticed it was slightly ajar. Trembling, I stepped outside. As I walked along the corridor, my eyes caught old prisoner photographs hanging on the walls. One of them looked eerily familiar. The closer I got, the more I trembled. When I finally saw it up close, my breath caught in my throat. The child in the photo was me. I turned around to run, but the shadows began moving towards me. The dim light made the prison's long corridors seem even darker. I started running. No matter which way I went, I couldn't find an exit. The footsteps echoing behind me quickened. Someone was chasing me. Just as I was about to give up, I saw that a door at the end of the corridor was slightly open. Gasping for breath, I rushed inside and shut the door behind me. My heart was pounding. Suddenly, I noticed something strange. This was a hospital room, but how? I had just been in a prison. There was a bed in the middle of the room, and a doctor stood beside it. When he saw me, he smiled. "You've finally woken up," he said. I was bewildered. "What's happening?" I stammered. The doctor closed his notebook. "You've been here for a long time. You were in a coma after an accident. But now you're recovering," he said. A cold shiver ran down my spine. But what about the prison? The cell, that photograph? The doctor frowned. "What prison? You've always been here. Maybe your subconscious was playing tricks on you," he said. But I was sure. I had been there, in that cell. The person in the photo was me. I didn't believe the doctor. But as I stepped out into the hospital corridor and caught my reflection in the glass for a split second, I saw myself wearing a prisoner's uniform. And at that moment, I realized, was I truly free, or was I still in a prison? Just then, a shadow moved at the end of the corridor. My heart started pounding rapidly. I squinted trying to see, but the shadow vanished quickly. I told myself it was just my imagination. But something was pulling me back toward my room. I walked slowly, but then I heard a whisper behind me. "Did you forget me?" The voice was cold and deep. I turned around, but no one was there. However, lying on the floor was a photograph of me wearing a hospital gown. Trembling, I picked it up. On the back, written in red letters, was a message. "The truth can never escape." At that moment, the hospital room door slammed shut and locked itself. My heart nearly stopped. I ran to the door, but no matter how hard I twisted the handle, it wouldn't open. I rushed to the window and tried to look outside, but the cityscape that should have been there was gone. Instead, there was only an endless void. It was as if the hospital was floating in midair. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. Cracks spread along the walls, and from them, a darkness began to seep out. As I stepped back, a shadow slowly appeared in front of me. Its face was hidden in darkness, but its eyes glowed. "It's time to face the truth," it whispered. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. It felt as though an invisible rope had tightened around my throat. I took a step back and slipped. My head hit the ground hard. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the prison cell. But this time, the door wasn't open. There was no escape. I turned to look in the mirror. The reflection staring back at me was not mine. And at that moment, I understood I would never escape this cycle.